All right, here we are. We made it. We are all here together. So, thank you everyone for being here. We are here to discuss our experiences with Jesus, who we all call Yeshua as well, and the Christ, and share how he has impacted our lives in honor of the Christmas season, the birth of the Christ, bringing the Christ back into Christmas, I feel. So, so thank you everyone for being here. And thank you everyone here on my panel. Mwah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to
Thank
be here.
you.
Yeah. So I thought we'd start with just going around the room and sharing our experience with Jesus, with Yeshua, and a little bit about how it impacted us, and moving forward, how he is present in our life. Okay. I believe I will go to you first, Kim, if you don't mind.
Do you want this brief?
It's
Probably brief.
brief to
I mean,
start. Brief to start, and then we can
this is
share as we
Yeshua
go.
we're talking about here.
Are you saying he's long-winded? Okay.
My experiences.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
So okay, I'll try to be brief, but and if you want me to expand at all at any part, go ahead. But so I started off in a faith where I was raised knowing Jesus, and so Jesus was my best friend and my savior, and I had a relationship with Jesus through what I was taught by my parents and the church we attended. So it was pretty dogmatic. And as I grew and matured into my 20s and 30s, things weren't lining up for me. And I'd say the biggest thing is a lot of people probably on this channel can relate to this. I am a sensitive, like most of us here. I'm an empath. I'm a super feeler, use whatever term you want. And so the idea of anyone dying and burning in hell because they don't follow a formula of what's been laid out before us, accepting Jesus as their Lord and Savior, just was really difficult for me. Like I could remember many tortured nights over that. And so being a caring person, I was very driven to convert people. So for much of my early life, my agenda was conversion because I couldn't bear the thought of anyone, going to hell, because they didn't have the loving message of Jesus. And so what happened though is I got a job where we weren't allowed to talk politics or religion. A hairstylist. I was a hairstylist at a high-end salon here in Phoenix. And it was the first time in my life when I couldn't do my agenda. So I actually got the opportunity to just listen to people. And it was the most powerful experience for me because I actually got to know people. So before, it was like all about conversion and not literally knowing another human being. So that became very powerful for me. And so when the shackles of Christianity fell through that experience, I didn't know what to do with Jesus. So I had my own lost years, and they were actually, I was liberated, but I was also missing my best friend. I just didn't know what to do with that. And then a friend introduced me to Buddhism. So what makes my story kind of fun is Buddhism brought me back to Jesus. Because as I learned Buddhism, and I'm getting really emotional right now, I'm feeling it. Um, the teachings of Buddha, I was like, this is Jesus' teachings. It's the same thing. And so then I could return to Jesus. But I was able to return to Jesus in this beautiful way as like a best friend and a kindred spirit, I feel like. And so then I had the most amazing experience. Jesus came to me in a vision. Um, I was wide awake for this one, but I was in bed, but I was awake. But as a vision was happening, I knew enough to grab a journal and start writing it because I didn't want to forget anything that was happening. And it lasted 3 hours long. And it was just amazing. I I could feel it was Jesus more than anything. And he took me to Moses, where he basically said that it was like I was part of the scene. And he said that, um, you know, Moses came to Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go." And so Jesus said to me, "You're going to let my people go from their own self imposed slavery." So basically, Jesus was taking me through like what I'm about to do is I'm helping people be set free. And so it was just this really neat experience. And Jesus told me I'm a lot like him. He told me that we have similar personalities, and that's so true. And even my coaching style, I'm like Jesus. I build these one on one relationships with people. I get very deep. I like to hang with the people I'm coaching. I like to, be a part of their lives just as Jesus did. So it's really been kind of neat to see that, come to fruition. So I guess that's kind of it in a nutshell for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's a very tiny synopsis, right? Thanks, Kim. Lucho, do you mind going next? Sharing your
No, I can do
encounter.
that.
Yes.
Yes. I'm new to this scene, I guess. You just posted my part of my story, I think, part one. Um, coming. And I, again, I don't know if you want the short version or the long version, Sharon, but um, I guess I was brought up Catholic and was very involved in the church as an altar boy. And at 15, I kind of went away and went away for about 10 to 12 years. Um, and on one particular day, my life changed because I met a dying man on the street. And um, I wanted to help him. And when the ambulance was coming, we called the ambulance, and I was there by myself with this dying man. I wanted to help in some way, and so because I was raised Catholic and I was very close to Jesus as a young child, I thought I would pray, and to my shock, I couldn't connect at all to the source, um, and it really shook me up. And um, short story, the ambulance eventually came, took the man away, um, and he did die of a brain aneurysm. And what left, and that was Palm Sunday, 1995. And I went away wanting to basically look at my life and needing to look at my life because I had felt this shock, it was basically seeing the emptiness of my life. And so it took about at least a month or 2 months of really digging deep and really soul searching. And at the end of that time, um, it was a simple choice for me. It was like, do I believe or not? And if I do, I won't have to make into an act of faith, and I have to live my life a certain way. Because during those years away from the church, I was very selfish and not really in touch with my spirit and others, not as much as I'd hoped anyway. So I, I I I really committed to my faith, and I became really involved in the church, and I felt that maybe God was calling me to be a Catholic priest, and it was one of those journeys where I needed to sort of climb my way back up to being connected again, and I used the instruments of the Catholic Church to do that. Um, but um, along the way, some other miracles started happening, and I got a job. First of all, I got into teachers' college. It was at the time difficult here I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, And I got in. That was a miracle. As soon as I got out, I got a teaching job at my dream school, and it was teaching religion. Um, and so it all happened very, very quickly, like within 2, 3 years of finding that dying man in the street. And then here I was in front of teenagers teaching religion. And I was also teaching a social justice course that was my own to do whatever I wanted to, which was unheard of in the system. Um, so, because putting my faith into action after connecting with Jesus was very important to me, and so I delved deep into all sorts of social justice issues, putting my faith into action. So I was really connected with Jesus. I was talking about him every day with my students. I was living a connected life. Um, and about 10 years after that, of getting that teaching position. By the way, I didn't end up becoming a Catholic priest. I felt that God was telling me that I was in the right spot, helping young people as a teacher. Um, I had a vision of Jesus. I was on a retreat with my grade 10 class, and this is in part two of the story, which you'll probably upload soon. So this is spoiler alerts. Yeah, I saw Jesus. The My grade 10 class went to a school to help challenged young adults, and my grade 10 class was there to sort of help. The person running the school was very special. It turns out, and she was connected to the spirit for sure. And so she came up to me during lunchtime, and I was just minding my own business. And she said to me, "I don't know how to tell you this, but I got a message from God, and He wants me to pray with you. Are you okay with that?" I said, "Sure. I got nothing to do. Let's pray." So we went to the chapel, and she sat me down in the pews, and before we started praying, she told me things about my life that no one knew about. It was advice that God was letting me in on. So she really got my attention then. Then we started praying. We went to the front of the chapel. She took my hand. My eyes were closed, and almost from like a tunnel, Jesus appeared. And before would say I said anything, it was a shared vision, because she said to me while holding my hand, she said, "Oh my goodness, do you see him?" And of course, I knew exactly what she was talking about, because I could see Jesus. My eyes were closed, but it was if my eyes were open, and I could see the chapel. And he was in. It was a full vision, full body, um, and he was smiling. I mean, the smile was incredible, and his eyes were light, and more importantly, I felt Jesus. It was more than a vision. The the feeling of being loved unconditionally was beyond anything I had ever felt. And in fact, it was overpowering. And he didn't say anything. I didn't want him to say anything. It was like, and it felt in a way so natural when he was there. It was like coming home, and he just smiled, and I lost track of time. I was crying. I could feel the tears, coming down my face, but my eyes were closed. So I don't know how long it lasted, but I do remember breaking the contact with my friend, and as soon as I broke contact, the vision. I opened up my eyes, and the vision was gone.
Mm.
And yeah, it was and is the most important thing that has ever happened to me, and it it continues to shape my life. Although for a period of time I had trouble dealing with it, and it was just so overwhelming. I needed time to sort of let that sink in, and it did take years and years, and it's just kind of sinking in within the last couple of years. I've been taking ownership of it, and telling that story on Sharon's website was the first time I've shared it with the open public. I have talked to my students about it. My family knows, my friends know, but now I'm letting the whole world know.
Thank you, Lucho. It's time.
Yes, it's time.
Awesome. Thank you. Christina, do you mind going next?
Sure, I'll go next. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay, good.
loud and clear.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me onto this panel tonight. I'm truly honored. I trying to put together a short synopsis for you. So I guess I'll start with I was raised in a Catholic environment, and I completely rejected the religion. I didn't pay attention. I checked out in church. I just was not a practicing Catholic. And I actually made up this view by what I was taught and whatever I was doing in my mind that Jesus was perfect and that I would never actually be able to attain what he has attained. And mix that with an addiction that started when I was 5 years old with an eating disorder into alcoholism and drug addiction. I overdosed in 2012, and a couple of days after I overdosed, I was home. I came to in a psych ward actually, and I had a friend. She was a channel. She came in from Texas and she did a session with me. And I don't remember what was said or what we even did. But I did see in front of me Jesus, Buddha, and Mary. And I was trying. That was the first time. So after I saw those 3 images, I came out of this whatever space, and it was the first time that I looked at my friend and that I admitted that I had a problem and that I couldn't drink. So I'd been told by my treatment team 5 years earlier, I'd been trying. I had lots of feedback that I had a problem, but it was after I saw Jesus, Buddha, and Mary that the words came out of my mouth and I felt it. So around that time, I did put 90 days together at that time, but I also was introduced to a community that studies A Course in Miracles. And as soon as I opened the book, it's scribed. So it's a channeled piece of work, and Helen was channeling Jesus, and I could just feel it. I honestly could not understand the words. Like, I'll just say the wording was very, very difficult for me, but I could feel it. I could feel it to be true. And what it did for me, which I shared on your podcast, was like, it took everything that I had learned about Jesus, which wasn't much, right? It was all stuff I had made up in my head. During that time when I was a kid, even though I didn't embrace the religion or really feel like it was true, if I was scared, I would call on Jesus. Like, that's all I knew. So when I opened the Course in Miracles, it was like this big combination of what I had learned, what I had felt to be true, and then the words, just the entire book. I don't know if you guys have opened it, but it is all truth. And that was 10 years ago. Well, no, that was actually in 2012. So that was a little bit longer ago. But because of the course communities, I always say Jesus led me to sobriety. So I started going to the Course in Miracle communities, and a lot of people in these rooms of the Course in Miracles that were studying it were also in 12-step, and they were sober. And so it was through this work that I started to ask questions from other people who were sober. And about 3 to 4 months before I actually got sober, I I started praying. So the course led me to Jesus. Jesus led me to praying. I started praying. I asked God, I said, can you disrupt my life enough to stop this pattern? Because I couldn't stop no matter what. I tried, and I tried everything. And so that in a nutshell is pretty much my story. 10 years later, I just celebrated 10 years sober 2 weeks ago on December
Congratulations.
7th. And this whole time, Jesus has been a huge, huge part of it. I read the course, I do the lessons, I talk to him all day long, every day. I recorded another podcast episode this morning about Jesus. I invite people into my podcast and we talk about Jesus. And yeah, and what I really, what has really shifted for me, and you said this in your story when I interviewed you, Sharon, it's like there is nothing I can do that will take away his love for me. There's nothing you can do that will take away his love from you. And he is a man. He was a man. So everything he has been able to accomplish, that is actually available to us too. We can have that connection. Just like, and that has been the huge game changer for me.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Christina. And congratulations again.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's huge.
Miracles are real.
Well, you had it in you for sure. Yeah. Sable, my dear, do you mind going next, please? Oh, we can't hear you. Uh, we should have checked your audio. Did we did we hear you? I think we did earlier, didn't we? Oh gosh.
I don't think so.
No.
Oh, okay. Mm, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to try. What was the one you mentioned, Christina? StreamYard? StreamYard. Yeah, I'm about done with Restream.
Okay. Can you hear me
There.
now?
Yes, there we go.
Yes.
Okay.
Ah, I did change the setting. Okay. I
Yeah.
got it. I got it.
All right, you got it.
All right. Okay. So just listening to all of your stories, I'm just like, man, where do I even start? There's so much. Oh my gosh. So growing up, I basically was non-denominational. I had no religion I followed. I just would go to church on the big holidays like Easter and Chris and like after sometimes during the Christmas season when I was on break and stuff. But it was very rare. It was like twice a year, if that. And then I went to youth group in middle school and it was just like an academy or not academy, sorry, an assembly of God. And I had some really, really good, powerful, strong people around me in that youth group. I was only in middle school. I was too young to join, and they let me join anyways because my older brother was in the band. And that I was there for maybe 3 years, 2 or 3 years, up until I got to be a freshman in high school. And I had just very good people around me, and they're very inspirational and um, just good, really good. And I will never forget those people. And I feel like that was like the only time I actually was interested in reading the Bible. And even then it was super challenging for me. I didn't really understand what it was I was reading. And I was like, I just know Jesus is real. I know God is real. And I didn't ever doubt it for a second that Jesus wasn't real. Like I felt like I knew him. And gosh, sorry, my heart is like pounding. I'm
Yeah.
so excited to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for being here. Yeah, I feel
This is
definitely
really
feel the
cool.
energy.
So, um, I took a long pause and relation with my relationship to church and God and Jesus and anything having to do with religion. It was just like, okay, I know it's there. I can come back to it whenever I want. I guess I'll know when I'm ready, or something will guide me back to it. And it basically took two very abusive relationships for me to get out of. And that was about 9 years of my life. I was in two very controlling relationships. And I was beat down. Like, I didn't know what to do with myself. I wanted to die. I wanted to commit suicide. I was miserable. And I just didn't understand why I wasn't getting what I deserved, like just to be loved and for somebody to allow me to love them as well. And I took a break. I took 2 years off from dating anybody. I lived with my grandparents. They took me in. No rent, nothing. Just I got to go to work. I'm a teacher. I teach pre-K, and it was my life. Like, I just wanted to work all the time. I worked till 9 o'clock in my classrooms on some in my classroom on some nights. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm a workaholic. I guess I am one. And eventually, in my work, I was able to, well, I was guided to teach my students how to meditate. And I didn't really know what I was doing at first. I knew I wanted one of those little bells, like the little ding, to get their attention, or to, perk them up out of it. And I got one of those, and I started to read about, teaching children how to meditate. And then eventually it just became a thing in schools in California. Like, it was encouraged. Like, teachers were being trained to teach these kids how to meditate. They started hiring meditation coaches or mindfulness coaches, and it was something that really caught my attention, because I knew how powerful this was, to be able to teach kids how to control their energy and be aware of themselves, and to love themselves unconditionally too. So I got into that, and this was during my I got into it before I had the exodus with the ex. And I got curious about it. And then I separated from him, and then I had all this free time in those 2 years, and I just started meditating all the time. I could not stop. I was in love with it. I loved the way it made me feel. I was able to heal myself from illness, and um, from pain, from suffering, from just being miserable and not loving myself at all, and having a hard time trusting people. And years go on, I'm practicing meditation, and I get really good at it, and I start having these transcendental experiences and not even needing any drugs. I was like, cool, I don't need to do drugs to get this experience. And I figured out how to, go through this tunnel and see past lives, and oh gosh, talk to my dead brother. But this is more recent. My brother passed away last year, or earlier this year in January. But I'm okay. It's all good. I know he's with me all the time. And then so about Jesus. I'm getting all over the place. So I discover, um, let's see, in all these years, I, have so many sources of of learning, and I've gained so much wisdom from books and audiobooks, and just meditation. So I got into Dolores Cannon. I listened to her book, Jesus and the Essenes, and They Walked with Jesus. And I just was blown away at how beautiful this work was that Dolores Cannon recorded. All of these sessions with all these people. And I felt like I was there. I felt like I was in that world with Jesus and with his followers. Like, I was one of them in that world so long ago. And like, I just knew him. I knew him. It's like I've held his hand and looked at him in his eyes in person, and in many, or one of my past lives, and maybe in his previous incarnations as well. I don't know. But I feel it, yo. Um, and So I got into the Sophia Code, and I started to feel the presence of all three from the Order of Magdalena with Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, and Jesus, and even Joan of Arc. So one night after, I think I had just finished reading the Sophia Code, and I just start talking to Jesus like normal, like Jesus is my homie kind of thing. And one night I was sleeping and I woke up to go to the bathroom and then went back to sleep. And then I fell into one of those wake back to sleep deep meditations. And I go and my body lifts up and I go into this other dimension, and I'm like surrounded by all these ascended masters, and I just can sense all their love, all their light. I can feel it all, I can see it all. It was very powerful. And something wakes me. I think it was a cat like hissing at another cat because we have three cats. And next thing I know, I open my eyes and I see three balls of light just floating next to my bed. I'm like, ooh, this is cool. And then they kind of just blend. They're floating, and then they kind of blend into one, and then they just explode. And I was like, what was that? That was Jesus, Mother Mary, and Mary Magdalene, like in that space with me. And I knew it. I saw them. I felt their love, but I was also distracted by my cats. That was really powerful for me. Let's see. I think I've gone on long enough. So that's one of my most recent ones, but there's others. I've I just he's my
You're
homie.
you're I love that. He is, isn't he? Thank you,
Yep.
Sable. That's
Of
amazing.
course. Thank you.
That's
You're
awesome,
welcome.
yeah. He is our homie. Okay, I'll share a little bit about, my experiences with Yeshua, and I know people here on in the studio may already know it, some in the audience, but, okay, I was like most of us here on the panel. I think all of us were raised. I was raised Catholic. Didn't resonate with the judgy part of it and the controlling part of it and that kind of thing. Although I was when we lived with my grandmother, we went to church every morning, every day, except for Saturday. Saturday was the only day we didn't go to church, and I've said this before where I felt really bad because I would make my grandmother chase me around the house to get me to go to church with her because I did not want to go. And and so I wasn't really down with that, not feeling connected. I didn't feel connected to the saints and to Jesus, even though, like in here, know, I knew in my heart and my soul that there was something more about him that we weren't talking about, that it wasn't what was being portrayed. And I knew that somebody powerful was probably watching out for me because I probably should have died a long time ago, considering the choices I made in life. So, so I'm like, all right, well, that made sense later. And then in 2001, I was a partier. I hadn't, I wasn't really addicted. I was a social drinker, social partier, doing the party drugs and things like that. But I could feel myself starting to get addicted when my stepfather passed, and then in 2001, I was went inner tubing down the Guadalupe River, and coming back, I fell out. The back door opened up. We were on the bus to come back, and I fell out of the back of the bus, and the trailer ran over my head, and I popped out of my body, and I was met by my stepfather, and also saw this beautiful sun-like light, this portal where a being came out of it, and I recognized him as Yeshua right away. I recognized him, and I flew to him, and like I think it was Kim and Christina said, all of us here. Oh, I know him, and I missed you. I missed him so bad. I knew him, and I just needed to be with him again. And I flew to him, and he held me. whew, uh, I don't know how long he held me, but it was enough to heal my body, and I emerged in his light and his love, and he took me on a journey. Afterwards, when I came back to this, he told me it wasn't my time, to shorten the story. Um, when I came back and was became aware of him again, which took a little while, I made a commitment to be in meditation with him every night at 9 o'clock, and he helped me remember that I had an NDE, or as a child, I had a near death experience earlier, which I didn't remember most of my childhood. Um, and so he helped me remember what was going on in my childhood, which caused me not to remember and to heal from that. And when I had that NDE, he was there. I would say as well, but no, first. But at that point, it was different because I was very, very happy to see him, of course, but it wasn't like I missed him so bad because I had just left him. And I do believe that he was with me. And Angela, who was going to be here tonight but couldn't make it, shared her story on my channel where he was there pre-birth and in between lives, helping her choose her this life, and so that she could come back to the planet to help heal her last life, and he was there with her. So I do believe that he was with me in between lives, or in between our lifetimes. So I had this understanding when I was with him that he helped me uh, choose this life. And he said, you don't have to go to back. He said, you don't have to go back. He said, my child, you've suffered enough. You don't have to go back. And I said, but I want to, because I'm not finished. And I need to go back and finish whatever I need to do. And he graciously allowed that. So he has been my everything ever since I remembered him in 2000, around 2002, after my NDE, when the memories started coming back for me, which were very profound at the time. I understood why it took me a while to remember it, because there was so much love and so much light and so much to remember. He took me to another world to explore. And so he's been my everything ever since, and he's with me. He's during that time when he was working with me, I woke up a couple times, to about a handful of times, um, where he was in my room with me. Yeah, and helping me, having conversation with him. At one point, we were dancing in the room. Another point, he was sitting on the edge of the bed, and we were having a conversation. I just wake up in the middle of that experience. So I know that he's always with me. And Christina, I also was uh, led to A Course in Miracles during that time, and I had it next to me on my nightstand. And that, because I didn't really understand it 20 years ago either. And I'm like, which, long before you read it, but I thought, okay, I put it on my nightstand. Maybe I'll absorb all the teachings. So I feel like, okay, this is how I'm going to read it, by absorbing it.
I do that too.
Yeah, which I feel like I did. I did end up reading it about 15 years later, but it was just way, way um, too deep for me. But I knew that I felt it as well, that it was from him. And now Way of Mastery is where I'm feeling his teachings as well, or his energy. And I feel him every moment. All I have to do is tune in. And he was so present with me then, helped me heal. It was amazing. I had to go through my stuff. He didn't keep me from walking through the shadows that I needed to walk through, but he was there with me. There was many times where I felt his presence, his arms around me, while I was going through some really, really tough shadows. I was dealing with some really heavy stuff, and he was there with me. So that's a little bit about my encounter with Yeshua. Um, let's talk about how he is present for us in our lives now. I know we shared a little bit about that, or whatever you want to talk about. If you want to add anything to your story, um, I I'll start a little bit here, but I feel like we are, and let me know we'll go around the room and let me know what you feel about this. I feel like he's, I've been getting this a lot with clients and talking to people that we are basically the second coming. Okay. And bringing the teachings that he brought onto the planet 2000 years ago, that it's the time, we're at the end of an age. Yeah. And so we are mm, the expressions of what he taught us 2000 years ago. And so we are that part of him. Does that make sense? Am I making any sense? Please chime in here. Okay. Kim, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I just feel like the light is just getting brighter and brighter, and so that means the shadows are being seen. So I know that a lot of people can kind of get caught up in the worry and the franticness of it, but I've just really, whenever I hear of the darkness in the world, I just know that means the light is shining bright in order for the darkness to be seen. And that really helps me get through it. Um, I would say what just to kind of share what's hard for me, most hard for me is physical pain. And knowing what Jesus went through does help me. And I can kind of commiserate with Jesus and know that he knows what it feels like. And I know he's got such great compassion for us. And I forget which one had the story. Maybe it was what you just said, Sharon. But one of you talked about it was painful when you did. I think it was you, Sharon. It was painful when you returned, but you just knew Jesus was there with you.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I think that that's maybe a lot of people can relate to that. I'm kind of coaching someone right now that her stories of childhood are so horrific, and she's in a space right now of just kind of seeing the unfairness of all of that. And so I think a lot of people can be stuck in the unfair for a time. Um, but we're allowing her inner child to feel like it was unfair, because honestly, to her inner child, it is unfair. But anyway, back to Jesus. I just wanted to share that I have these Jesus cards that I
Oh,
absolutely love. They just warm my heart. And this is one of my favorites. And I don't know if you guys can read it, but it says, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world.
nice. Are
And
those your
it's just,
cards or are those Doreen Virtue's cards?
they might be Doreen
Okay,
Virtues.
I have those too. They're beautiful.
Yeah, I have this one out
Nice.
and I have this one out because I'm picturing when Jesus was on earth. I'm picturing, the Bible talks about him getting up early in the morning to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel this way when I look at the night sky, and I've been shown things in the night sky. So I just feel such a kinship with Jesus. I guess that's my biggest relational experience with Jesus. He just feels like a kin, you know, a kindred spirit.
Your homie.
So,
Who would like to go next with the discussion on if we are the? I can go around the room unless someone wants to chime in. Lucio.
Yep,
Okay.
I'll take the next. So I'm probably the most connected to the Catholic Church in this group, and although I wouldn't necessarily call myself a Catholic, if someone were to say, "What are you?" I would say a follower of Yeshua. Um, I mention this because I think technology is so important to this awakening that you're saying, the second coming,
Mm-hmm.
because for centuries, literally millennia, the church has had a monopoly on information. And and if it wasn't for the internet, frankly, I mean, I would not have been open to this other material, other ways. So it's definitely something that I've has benefited me, and I think it's benefiting all of us. And we're connect. I know it was difficult to connect at the beginning of this session, but when technology works, it is a miracle, you know, and it brings us all millions and millions of people together. And it's how I found you, Sharon, and through Next Level Soul, and it's and you could feel I could feel that so many people waking up, and I'm just on that journey myself, and we're yeah, we're lighting up. We're lighting up the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Thanks, Lucio. Definitely. Christina, would you like to go next?
Sure. Yeah, I agree with Lucio about technology. I think technology is making information more easily accessible, as well as, I mean, look at all of us. Like,
Hmm.
we're all a part of it, right? Like, I have a podcast, you have a podcast, like, we've all interviewed each other. So, the conversations, like, now we're able to have these conversations, but also deliver them to all of our audiences at the same time. So, I definitely believe that technology has a part in that. But really, what I see, it's like, I think Kim mentioned earlier about Buddha and how Jesus's teachings were similar to that. It's like Jesus is just one teacher of love. Really, there's so many people that, the way I see it with my clients, with my own journey, it's like we really do want God. We really do want that connection to source. We really do want that peace. And it's like that desire is causing, us to seek for it. And when you ask, you shall receive. So here we are, all wanting the same thing, that connection with God, that connection with source, the connection to each other, right? We want to be reunited with Jesus, which we never actually left. But
Right.
that's
Right.
the illusion, right? And so together, collectively, we're awakening. And the way I see it, and I only have 4 decades behind me, so that's not much time, but from my experience, the way I see it is that together we're wanting more, and so we're sharing more. And because we're sharing our experiences, we're creating more space, and together and individually we're expanding. And Jesus's teachings, we're learning as humans that love is the way, that forgiveness is the way, and that judging doesn't actually work to feel connected or to feel peaceful. And so, because we're having experiences of feeling loved, of being able to forgive and give love, we're collectively expanding as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Christina. Say, what would you like to share?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Well, during my spiritual awakening, if you want to call it that, yep. Um, I also learned, along with everything else, that I have energy healing powers. Woo! Super cool. So I started to meditate a lot with crystals, and I started to, put intentions into the crystals, and ask them to help me with help, you know, and put their power inside me. That's what I asked them to do. And I started to feel my palms heat up and vibrate and lift up out of my body. And it was just so powerful. And when I had that feeling within me, within my hands and within my heart, I knew that Jesus was putting his hands on my hands and powering me up. And so not only Jesus, but both Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, I have felt them lift me up and like give me an energetic massage in my meditations. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Wow.
It felt so good. I used to meditate in my classroom after work when the kids were gone. Like my classroom was my sanctuary. Like I did everything I loved there, and I still do, and it's awesome. And I started meditating after work, and that just the children's energy that they leave within that space is so powerful, and I could feel it every single day. Like I had some of the most powerful meditations in my classroom, and I've had so many just beautiful encounters with the healing power of Jesus, like his just his love within my hands. And then I started to experiment on myself, and I started to feel pain lift away when I would, hover my hand over an area. And then I started to try it on my boyfriend, and I was like, let me try this. Can you feel this? And he's like, yeah, I can feel that. What are you doing? And I almost made him pass out once from how powerful it was, like just doing over his crown chakra. And I started to play with other people's energy, and I started to learn how to heal them and to call on the ascended masters. And Jesus was always there. I tell people before I do energy work on them, I say I call on Jesus. He's my healing partner. Like we work together, and they love hearing that. They just love it, and they're like, whoa, really? And I'm like, yep, he's here too. So is Mother Mary, so is Mary Magdalene. I work with all three of them. And then I call on the other divine feminine ascended masters, and I call on Buddha. And that's what I do. And it's okay to talk about Jesus at work in Texas. Like my students one of my students reminded me, she's like, Christmas is about Jesus. Christmas is about the day Jesus was born. And she's a little 5-year-old. No, she's not even 5 yet. She's 4, and she's saying these beautiful things. And I'm like, you're right. Christmas isn't just about presents and Santa Claus. It's about Jesus. She's like, yeah. And then she like puts her hand on her heart, and it's so precious. So
Oh,
I
yeah,
love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yes. We are the second coming.
Mhm.
So, I've been coming across a lot of people. Thank you, Sable. That's awesome. Yeah. I've been coming across a lot of people, and I just did an interview today, actually, with Wendy, Christina, and we were talking about Mary Magdalene, and she has memory of Mary being walking with Christ and Mary Magdalene, and she had to heal that time, and she didn't even know it, of the crucifixion. Um, and Lucio, we've talked about this as well, and there's a lot. I keep getting the messages, and no one can tell me it's that I'm crazy. Where and even people that I work with, I see that there's so many people here that walked with Christ, walked with Yeshua 2,000 years ago, are back. Our soul is back, right? Um, and I do believe that we are here to heal that, because when you think about it, that's been really anchored in us, the crucifixion, that part of the Christian teachings or the Catholic teachings or whatever, that were um, that Yeshua died for our sins and things like that, and that we're the way I see it, we're taught to feel guilty about that type of thing, and we have that in our memory anchored within us, and this is time to heal it. So many people I've been working with, we get taken back to, whoo, and I get emotional talking about it. Whew, and I know this is something he had to help me heal with 20 years ago. The pain of the crucifixion, the pain of it. Yeah. Being there with him. What are your thoughts on that? Anyone want to say anything about that?
I'll talk, Sharon.
Sure. Sure. Christina?
Um, Yeah, I think that so when I hear stuff about the crucifixion and what we were taught or what I was taught when I was a kid is that he sacrificed for our sins. And the Course in Miracles, the Way of Mastery, they do talk about how sin is not real. And it is Jesus telling us that that's not what that was about. And what I do love about the workings is that it teaches us how to correct. So instead of the Course in Miracles, instead of using sin, it talks about mistakes or errors, and that we're all here to atone and so correct those errors. So really, in the bigger picture, the way that I interpret, the way that I feel is true is that we have created a belief about the crucifixion, and the belief isn't even true. And so we're here to actually correct that error, that wrong thinking or that mistaken thinking. And then that way we can see you're not a sinner, I'm not a sinner, nobody's a sinner, we're all just love. And that, I believe, is the healing that we're here to
Yeah. I just want to
Nice.
add to that. So that was the crucifixion was a big part of the vision I had with Jesus. And again, the teachings of Buddha really connected with me. And what basically I had come to that place where I didn't know what to do with the crucifixion as well. But then, just it was shown to me that Jesus said, "Take up your cross and follow me." And with the Buddhist teachings, I suddenly knew what Jesus meant. Jesus literally meant be forgiveness. Like forgiveness is a state of being. It's not like sitting at the foot of the cross like I did with for many years in my religion. It's like being forgiveness, being love, being unconditional love. And that's what Jesus was, and he died on the cross because they didn't like his message. They had to kill him. They didn't want to lose their power. I mean, it's kind of the truth.
Right.
So he died for truth. And as he's on the cross, he says, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." I mean, to me, like the whole message is all right there. Even the people that spit on him, it's like he was forgiveness toward them. And that's what saves the world. That's what raises consciousness, is being forgiveness. It's
Beautiful.
kind of interesting in a world where it's filled with cancel culture. I mean, that's the opposite of Jesus' message.
Yeah.
No one's canceled. No one.
Right.
And I also feel too, I'll just add like because I'm a relational soul coach, and I I see people give up on each other in relationships too. And it's one of my favorite things is when I have someone come to me that says they're done. And I said, "Well, let's just put that on within their relationship." I said, "Let's just put that on the shelf for a minute and let's you and I work together." And then within a few months, the relationship is restored. And that's because of becoming forgiveness, being love. It's powerful and it affects the person you may be with. So anyway, it's just my input on that. I thought it was really neat.
Oh yeah. That's I mean that's everything, isn't it? And the law of one teaches, and I always say this because it's the quote I remember the most, in forgiveness lies the stoppage of the wheel of karma.
Mm,
Yeah. That's that's profound.
Yeah, yeah. And I think,
That's what he taught us.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that is the message of the crucifixion, like Christina was saying. Um, the whole thing about putting Jesus Christ, putting on the sins of the world and dying for us is dogma, and I think it was church theologians trying to make sense of it all years later, and just
Mhm.
trying to work out. I can see them like working out like a math equation, you know, and at this core of the crucifixion is very simple. Like, it was just, here's a man who was willing to die, um, for what he was saying, and was willing to forgive those people who kills him for that, for those simple, beautiful words that he was saying and living. Um, and it's such just a powerful, um, a powerful, what's the word? Just, I was going to say image, but it's more than an image. It's a living thing where forgiveness is pouring out through him while he's
Right.
dying.
Mm. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
And that
totally.
is that's powerful.
Hmm.
Can
Can
I
I?
add?
Oh, go ahead,
Yeah.
Christina. Go ahead.
So, and Sharon, it might have been you. I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but it just came in really strong that, he died because he wanted his teachings to live. Was that you, Sharon?
It could have been. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, makes
So
sense.
when I take that, like when I just heard Lucio, like, I mean, when we think about the messages we, right? Like, oh, he died so that you could be saved. Like that puts a lot of responsibility, right? Like it makes me feel like I have some obligation or, something like that. But to hear the truth that he died so his teachings could live, that just takes off all that guilt, all the error that we're here to heal. And thank you for
Hmm.
letting that was like a burning thing coming.
Of course. If you have something burning, go ahead, bring it in. Okay.
I have something this all the time.
Okay.
I'll chime in.
I do too.
I
Kim,
think
you were going
what's
to say something? Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, when you're helping someone heal from trauma and even my own trauma, the whole idea of telling someone that's been massively traumatized and abused that they're a sinner
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
that also never resonated. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of fun. I feel like I'm been given a little bit of the ability I can coach full on Christians. It's because I guess because I was such a strong one, I'm able to help them through their language, but shift it in a way that shifts their perspective, but not convert. I mean, maybe their conversion to being free of it will happen later on, but it's pretty special to me when I'm given that opportunity. I wanted to mention, Lucio, I kept getting like that you're Paul, the
Oh,
apostle.
really?
I did, and I almost got this really deep emotional feeling when I just said it out loud. I wasn't sure if I should say it, but I was like, I got it pretty instantly when we started, and I feel emotional about it right now.
Wow.
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 Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm opening up that part of my life, and with Sharon, and so it's all kind of new to me, but it's something I'm looking into. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
thank you
just
for
see
that.
I see Paul, and his story is pretty phenomenal because he had a faith without having met Jesus.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know, just
Yes.
something was resonated too when you were sharing your story. But
Yes. And yet that
anyway,
sudden conversion experience,
yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Can you hear me? Because I cut out there for a minute. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay. Okay. You know, I believe that I've been getting this information, these downloads, whatever you want to call it, inspirations that with sin and purgatory and being born in sin and those types of uh, dogma is could be okay. The um, Catholic Church, the Vatican, the teachings, or wherever it started, maybe interpreting, reinterpreting karma. okay? Or karmic programming or karmic patterns that we bring forward. Being born in sin, I got the intuitive information that what this, what perhaps these teacher or these clergy or whoever decided to call it that is actually our karmic programming that we're bringing forward into our life that we haven't healed, traumas we haven't healed, or maybe karmic stuff that we haven't healed. And I believe that they may have turned it around to make it sound like, make it to be sin, instead of that we don't come into a life with a clean slate. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yes, it does,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the Catholic Church doesn't believe in past lives, right?
Right. Right.
And so
Yeah.
it wouldn't compute. But what you're saying does make sense. If if we
Hmm.
do have past lives, we have things to deal with.
We have things we need to clear and
Hmm.
heal up and deal with. Yeah, totally. And purgatory, of course, they teach that that's where you go when you're sinful, and you're not, you don't exactly go to hell, and you don't exactly go to heaven, kind of thing. But that could be the earth plane where we get stuck, and because we haven't moved in, because I do spirit rescue, and Kim, do you do spirit rescue as well?
I
Um,
don't.
okay, where
But it's
you
funny
know
you say that. I feel like I channeled someone today for the first, I don't know. For me, it seemed like the first time that that is still on the earth plane.
okay, yeah. So spirit rescue is helping, and it's the same as soul retrieval, basically, a personality that's still stuck on the earth plane. And so helping someone or a personality that's still on the earth plane move into the higher planes, into the heavenly realms, rather than still being stuck on the earth plane with their attention on the earth plane, makes sense for me. Would be what they're talking about is purgatory.
Or do you, Sharon, is this true? I get the sense that they're choosing. I mean, the woman I felt today, I felt like she was choosing to stay on the earth plane.
Uh, Yeah, yeah, I do believe it's a choice, especially if they're sticking around to help family or something. But
Yeah.
I do believe they can help better from the higher planes. They may not
Okay.
know that,
Okay.
but yeah, because if they're newly departed, it's not unusual, what I understand, for someone to stay around to maybe help their family, or in that way.
Okay.
Yeah, depends on the soul for sure. But that's how I understand it. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay.
If anyone has any questions in the that's watching us, thank you for watching. If you have any questions or want to add anything to our conversation, feel free. Okay. Yeah, totally.
Well, I will add, because you were talking about the crucifixion earlier. I had to really
Yes.
look at all of this because I was raised such strong dogmatic Christianity. So it had to make sense to me. And so their story about Jesus was that he was a sacrifice, because their version of God is that God needs
Hmm.
sacrifice.
Of the Old
Mhm.
Testament. Yeah.
Yeah. But think about that too. I feel like their version of God really looks like a ruthless king.
Mhm.
Think of to me, it's so egoically man devised, with this king that is like, yes, take this land, and then bring me sacrifice and please me. It's just like, where's the love in that? And a judgmental, you just never. To me, the God of the Old Testament is a scary king that you never know what mood he's going to be in, or off with your head, or bring me sacrifice. And so there's this fear to please the king, the God. And then so their idea was like, well, Jesus was the sacrifice for us. So it just followed in line with that. From
Yes.
the beginning of time, actually, to the Adam and Eve, they sinned. And so,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's that equation, the mathematical equation that I was talking about.
Yeah.
It's very soothing to have the numbers fit, and I have to teach this to my students,
Oh,
and so
yeah.
I do this every year, and um, it's this infinite sin that we've caused that needs um, to be satiated, and we can't pay the debt because we're not infinite. So we have this God man who comes and who is God, therefore he can pay the infinite debt, but he's also a man who is representing humanity. So therefore the debt is paid.
Mm,
So it's so nice, so neat, but
yeah.
it's just
I
it
find,
doesn't in a way doesn't
oh
feel
man.
right in a
Oh.
way.
No, it doesn't make sense when you sit down when you start becoming aware of, wait a minute. Yeah, when you start waking up. And Kim, um, I have to interject about the Old Testament and this egoic king. I totally believe that the Old Testament is about Enlil of the Anunnaki. And, yeah, the two
Mhm.
brothers, Enki and Enlil. Um, and he is probably Yahweh, because his Enlil was his title. What I understand, what I've learned in studying our galactic history, our true history, that well, what I consider a true history from my memories and understanding, his name is I don't even want to say his name, but anyway, it's not Enlil, but Enlil, I believe totally was the the God of the Old Testament, because that's who he was.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
it's weird too. I mean, maybe you guys can speak on this too, or Lucio. Maybe I was watching Next Level Soul and I hadn't really thought about this aspect before. No, it was Billy Carson.
Mm. Oh
I
yeah.
love him. But the idea of a chosen people is interesting, right? These are my chosen people. It's like, the God of
Hmm.
the universe would have chosen people.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's talk about The Chosen. Speaking of The Chosen
Oh
people,
yes,
who's watching The Chosen?
yes I am.
I've
Yeah,
seen it, yeah,
yeah.
twice, three times maybe.
I'm on my fifth time. Okay.
Oh, is it good? I haven't watched it. I thought it
It's
might be too
beautiful.
Christian for me.
Oh, it's good.
It's
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 good.
good. It's based on the Bible, but they do fill in parts. But it's you can overlook that part. You know
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to
Hmm.
overlook.
They did a
Okay.
good job with Jesus's energy, his vibe.
Yeah.
I'm just like that feels like Jesus, Yeshua. I'll call him Sananda. Yeah. Uh huh. I
I
love it.
know. I cry every episode.
Oh my gosh, the one where he encounters Mary and it's
Oh,
the
the
first
first one.
episode. Yep.
Christina, have you watched it yet?
I have not watched it.
Oh,
It's on my list. I just,
It's
yeah.
free on Angel Studios. Watch it.
I'm gonna keep bugging you till you watch it.
Yeah. I got to find time.
It's
I mean,
beautiful.
you guys will have to do some convincing because I
It's
Um,
very
don't.
realistic. It's very realistic.
You
You could
they go
see
into
it
the lives
happening.
of them, like the apostles, and just what they all did together, how they worked
Mhm.
together, how they spread the message, how they healed. Like there's an episode where Jesus is able to help the apostles do the healing. He just kind of goes into them and helps them heal people. And they're wondering why they only had healing powers for a short amount of time. And sorry, I don't want to spoil too much, but
Yeah.
they're like, this guy's for real. Like he's the bomb. He's doing some good stuff. And they wanted to learn from him because they felt the power.
What I like about it also is that it depicts the men, his followers, as argue sorry, Lucho, but arguing amongst themselves the whole time, right?
Yeah,
Well,
This
why
is
do
absolutely.
you
true
want
though.
and argue yeah, and arguing with Jesus or Yeshua and thinking they know better, all this and everything. And Mary Magdalene is always the one that says, "Well, why don't you just ask Jesus?" They do call him Jesus. Why don't they just ask Jesus? And they're like, "Well, okay, but you know, we know
Yep.
better, you know."
What
So
would
it's
Jesus do?
right.
Yep.
Exactly.
It
I
was
think
always that.
I really feel you'll enjoy it, Kim.
It's
Oh,
good.
watch with an open mind. Uh, but at the end of
Okay.
yeah, if you align with Mary Magdalene, which I'm sure you do, if at the end of the first episode, because he doesn't appear until the end of the first episode,
Hmm.
I promise you, you will cry.
It will move your soul.
It will move your soul. Yes.
Yes. Little
Mhm.
earthquake under your feet kind of thing. Uh,
So Leah,
How about
this is your
you?
second round, she says, Leah. Nice.
Well, speaking of
Cool.
Mary Magdalene, I mean, you guys all shared a little bit of like seeing Mary Magdalene. So I had a more maybe 10 years ago now. Um, my coach at the time was leading me through an inner child exercise. And um, I was bringing someone with me to go visit the past. And all of a sudden it was like, Mary, you're bringing Mary. And it was weird because I had done a lot of healing and I thought I was doing great, but something was still there and brewing within me. This is prior to the appointment. And I was spending a lot of time in meditation and journaling. And I was like, why am I still waking up in so much pain? And, I was still kind of like, why? I thought I had done all this healing. And anyway, so it just flew out of me in the moment. And it was one of my most amazing experiences is I felt hopeless and defeated, and Mary came and she held me and she said, "I'm stepping up for you the way Jesus stepped up for me."
Mm.
And it was just like she just held me and rocked me. And I mean, so she's just so precious to me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, I think you'll really enjoy it. I will say that I also resisted watching it, The Chosen, because a friend of mine told me you have to watch The Chosen. This was a year and a half ago, 2 years when it first started coming out, I guess. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I haven't seen anything that I feel depicts Yeshua the way I really like, the way I experience him. Everyone experiences him in their own way. That's what's so amazing about him. And and so really didn't have any idea of watching it. And that morning, I had a vision as I'm waking up, and I looked down in the vision, in that half asleep, half awake when you're coming up the hypnagogic state. And I look down and I see that I'm walking across some grass on a pathway, and I look down and I see I'm wearing leather sandals, and I'm wearing a tunic. Yeah, like halfway down my thigh, my legs, my calf. And I'm like, well, this is weird. What is this? And I'm just walking like that. And I see myself wearing this beige colored tunic. And then I'm back here. That night, I sat down to watch something at the end of the night. I'll just watch something. And The Chosen came up on, where it says, we suggest this, right? And I thought, all right, well, I guess I'll put it on. He's Yasha was wearing leather sandals and that same color tunic.
Yeah.
And and I just when I watch it, I just feel like I'm at home there with him. And so
Hmm.
many synchronicities started happening as I was watching it. I started
Huh.
having visions about the next show and what was going to happen in the next show. Yeah. I Sable
Cool.
sent me a text that confirmed something that I was looking at, and I did a podcast or a episode on the chronovisor and the photos of Yeshua, and she sent me a text as I was looking at the crown of thorns, at that same time. There were so many synchronicities that started happening.
That's
I was
cool.
thinking about Mary Magdalene. I got a text from someone I don't know that said, "Does this phone belong to Mary?" I'm like, "Okay." There were so many things that were happening. Like,
Wow. And this is when you
How
started
fun.
watching.
yes.
I had some weird stuff happen to me while I was watching it too. That's why I wanted to watch it again. I was like, I just
Sure.
love this show. And so
Yeah.
many great things going on in your life when you're watching it and you want to tell people about it. Like, have you seen The Chosen? Watch The Chosen. It's magical. Yeah.
My sister gets sick of me talking about it whenever we talk.
Oh man,
Well, you are
it's great.
convincing me, and I just kind of feel like it's sort of the age again. Like, Jesus came in and preached this powerful message, and here we are. Like it's feeling very parallel.
I know
So
what
it
it
makes
is.
sense to me. What?
So in The Chosen, it is very, very, very apparent that Jesus is trying, he wants to get the message out to the people that we are the second coming. That it's not some, God big up in the sky like you were talking about, Kim. And he wants people to know that they are the second coming, like God is within, like the kingdom of
Mhm.
heaven is here. And it was very powerful in that sense.
Mm.
And I was like, there's something about this show that people need to see. They need to see this
Huh.
this portrayal of him. So yeah.
The
Okay.
Yeah.
actor does an amazing job. You just feel his energy. He is definitely channeling.
He's a
Yeah.
Jesus
Yeah,
love for sure.
yeah, I agree.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yep.
for me, it's the setting as well. It's so realistic. I I can really see how it all was happening in that environment, um, and the message just flowing out and into the countryside, um, and I just keep thinking, well, Jesus had appeared in this time or 100 years ago or 500. It just wouldn't have worked. It's just that was the perfect setting, for
Hmm.
his message, and um, I could it just makes sense to me, and it's I don't know, it feels comfortable. I don't know if that
Mm.
someone said it's, yeah, someone
Hmm.
said something similar to that. I think that it just feels
Yeah.
right
I feel at home when I'm watching it.
at home. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm. Before
Definitely.
that, I was looking for everything Jesus I could find, like everything, because I wanted to just
Hmm.
learn about him from every angle, every way a story's been told, and figure it out for myself. Be guided to the truth. So it's a big part of that for me, being guided to the truth.
It's good stuff, Christina.
Mhm.
It's really good stuff.
No, I want to. I mean, I'm listening to you guys. I'm like, okay, I'm going to start watching it tonight. Like, my intention. We'll see if it unravels that way. But the desire's definitely there. I'm really excited.
Yay.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Especially if you were raised, Kim, like you said, in a very doctrinal and orthodox way. Um, it, it, Jesus sometimes seems fantastical, if you get that, like it's just other word, like but with this, how they do it in the Chosen, like I said, it feels very real. Like you could see how Jesus was able to do what he did, and how the stories developed, and the apostles, the disciples are so realistic and so human and so flawed. Um,
Mm.
and the Romans are depicted in a very accurate way. I mean, it's all so perfect.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it
Hmm.
makes it seem so real. I mean, we all know Yeshua existed, but there's so many people who think, no way. But I, I think it's very clear when you see the Chosen that, yeah, it,
Yeah.
it happened that way.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, and the followers, some of them you're like, they rub you the wrong way. And then you love them again, and then they rub you the wrong way, and then you love them again, you know? I guess that's and they're just regular people that are and he chooses, of course, the misfits.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep.
I don't know what else
Oh
to
god.
call us, but yeah.
We're all a
I
bunch
think
of
that's why they yeah, I think that's why they got the New Testament not quite right as well, because it was them writing it and they didn't quite fully get his message. They were still kind of stuck in the Jewish sacrificial system.
Mm.
Right,
Yes.
and
That's the
in
interpretation of it.
Yeah.
Mhm. In Mary the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, she even says that, of course, there was, what, 9 pages taken out of her gospel? And, but she says that Peter, who has a really strong role, they call him Simon in the Chosen, uh, says, "Well, why would he tell you these things and not us? You know, why would he tell, like a woman these things and not share these things with us?" To paraphrase. But if you've read the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, that is in there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Huh.
So yeah, there was a lot taken out of her gospel. And of course, Mother Mary wasn't included. There wasn't anything about Mother Mary included in the Bible, and she was also um, very knowledgeable and very wise, as we know. Um, and
So
she,
I'm curious now if this show, so like I think Sable said earlier that, I'm like her. I love watching everything about, Jesus from every angle. And one of the things that I'm really fascinated with is like what he did to get to that level of being that connected and that embodied, because he wasn't just born and embodied, right? Like he went off, he trained, he focused, he learned how to instill faith into others. That's how he heals. And so I'm curious if the show, or if there's any area that we can go here, if the show outlines his journey as well, because I did not read the Bible when I was growing up, and I had a tiny desire to, and I opened it and I just did not resonate, so I put it down. I'm curious if the Bible has any of that too. Like, I'm curious what you guys have to say about all that.
The lost years.
It doesn't. No.
the lost years, yeah.
We only have one story when he's 12, the, Jesus being
Huh.
lost in the city. So yeah, it, they gloss over it completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they
And in
cover
the
that
chosen,
in the show.
they
They
do.
do.
Oh yeah.
That when he went to the temple and said, when Mary was looking for him, Mother Mary was looking for him, and he
Oh
says, "Why
right.
would I not be in my Father's house?" Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
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 I
Where
was
do they
talking to my
say do they
Mhm.
where do they say that he goes then for 12 year
30,
no, it's
almost 30. Well,
Oh, they
40,
don't cover that in The
40.
Chosen.
no,
Yeah,
they don't.
oh, okay.
yeah.
Oh. But there's I shared it with you, Sharon, the giving voice to the wisdom of the ages. The guy who has that channel on YouTube, he recorded a reading or a channeled book from Jesus, and it's I can't remember what it's called, but something with Jesus in the name, or Yeshua speaks, or something like that. Jesus speaks, or the truth, something like that. I can't remember, but it's there. I can share a link with y'all if you want. Um, and he basically shares who he was, what he was doing back then, and what his message was, and what his early life was like, the truth behind the truth of everything. And it all made so much sense when I listened to it. I was like, this is the stuff they didn't tell us. This is the stuff they kept from us. This is the stuff they didn't actually know. They didn't really keep it from us because it wasn't all shared, but maybe it was like in, the some early writings that are related to the Bible. I don't know. But it was all there, and I was like, there it is. There it is. And then I think that's when I started to listen. But that was soon after I listened to Jesus and the Essenes, and they walked with Jesus, and from Dolores Cannon. Have you guys ever read Dolores Cannon books? Any of y'all?
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, most of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. If you
I
haven't,
have
she's
those.
a.
Yeah, I
What's
read
her
those a long
claim
time
to
ago.
fame? What's her main gist?
Dolores Cannon is a quantum hypnotist, hypnotherapist. She's passed away. She passed away in 2017, I think. She started out with past life regression hypnosis, and she led a lot of people, helped lead a lot of her patients or clients into past life experiences and just memories, and who, where, when they got to be in the presence of God and what that was like. And at one point, one of her books, at the end of it, one of her clients is channeling God, like the voice of God comes through, and it's like, whoa! Even with just an author's voice or a narrator's voice, you could feel the power of God in that voice and the message. And Dolores Cannon she did a lot of great work. I'll tell you that right now. Helped me open up to the universe. So, yes,
She actually developed
everything.
the QHHT method. Dolores Cannon did.
Yeah,
You
I
hear
have
about
one of those.
QHHT. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Quantum hypnosis, quantum healing
Quantum
hypnosis therapy,
yeah.
hypnosis therapy. Yeah, she developed that, and she's written tons of books. Convoluted Universe series
Mm-hmm.
is one of the
My
best
favorite.
series out there. Yeah, totally.
What's it called?
The,
Convoluted.
the Convoluted
The
Universe.
convoluted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds fascinating.
Oh, they're beautiful
Yeah.
books. Ugh,
Yeah,
ugh.
good stuff. Good stuff. It's all information coming from her clients that she, as she's working with them, because she started out as a past life hypnotherapist back in the 60s, and then she
Mhm.
developed, and then she these her clients started coming through with channeled information and higher frequency information. And what she was talking to Nostradamus, she was talking to people that walked with Yeshua. She was talking to extraterrestrials that came onto the planet many millennia ago in star crash and star something, but lots and lots of stuff. And yeah, it's the cutting edge of disclosure for our galactic history. Dolores
Yep.
Cannon is the pioneer in that for sure.
Hmm.
So cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's good stuff,
Right.
definitely.
I was going to
Yep.
mention
And
Christina.
also,
Oh,
oh, go ahead. You go. Go ahead,
I'm trying
Christina.
to um get back to something you were saying, Christina. So tell me if this is helpful or not. Um, so Jesus spoke in parables,
Mhm.
and I just, from my vision, again, I had that feeling that he was basically, Jesus is explaining how we're similar, me personally, the way I am. I'm a teacher type of coach, and Jesus was a teacher, and how he had to he had to sort of contort the message into parables for his audience.
Mhm.
And that's another way that I relate to him, is just like I'm able to kind of do that. Like I'm able to help the message of love, I guess. I'll explain it, healing and love, and
Yeah.
adapt it to the way that person can receive it.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. What I understand, and I've interviewed several people on my podcast that have past life memories or NDEs or other things like that. And yeah, he was, the way of mastery also talks, he shares in the way of mastery, like how he gives us exercises and he shares his experience in those exercises, how he would sit with an object and like just kind of contemplate the
Mm.
relationship of, how that object came into creation. And so I'm fascinated by those things, but I'm also fascinated with, how he, he could zone in on what that person had faith in. And that's how he helped them, because it was a belief that they could already um, connect to, or that they already resonated with. So there's a few stories. There's a couple of them swimming in my head right now, but I did do a couple of interviews, and some of these stories have come out in those interviews, and they're really, really beautiful. So, and yeah, the parables too, the storytelling, like he has a real sense of humor. I like
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
it.
He's one of the funniest people I know. He's probably the funniest person I know. Yeah. It makes me
I
laugh.
He does. I love,
Yeah.
yeah, I love his parables.
In The Chosen, they talk about that, or he tells, he's talking in parables, and the it's really funny because the followers don't get it. They even look at each other like,
Hmm.
I'm
Especially
not
Matthew,
following you, especially Matthew.
because he's autistic. It's a
Yep.
great
Yep.
spin on who possibly Matthew could have been. I mean, I love that. I never would
Uh-huh.
have
Me
guessed, but
too.
it makes sense
He was
that he
like
would
one of my
could be
favorites.
autistic.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and of course, autistic people, they can't understand in metaphor, a lot of them.
Right.
So he's having
Hmm.
difficulty. It's beautiful.
It is, and he gets frustrated because he doesn't understand metaphor, and so,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and the
Poor
way
Right.
Matthew.
my favorite scene is one of my favorites is when he calls Matthew to follow him.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, me too. Me too.
totally.
I love
Yeah.
how he called them to follow him. Like he was so subtle about it, but so matter of fact. Like, you're coming with me. You want to come? Okay, let's go. Yep.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
So cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So someone,
Mhm.
let's see here. We put this up. Hidden fact: the real Jesus, Yeshua, most likely had dreadlocks and had much darker skin than the images of the white version ordained by the Vatican to look at. Like, I do a show on this. Yeah, Lucho, you saw it, right? With the chronovisor. That,
Yes.
yeah, that the time travel image, which I
Hmm.
believe is a true image. That's,
That is a
I haven't
spooky
seen
image.
anything to prove it's not.
Yeah, there's some energy coming off of that image. Oof.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And yeah, you can see that the church probably um, depicted those photographs in paintings to make him look pure more Anglo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I don't remember too many details of when I saw him, but he did look darker. Like that, I do remember.
Hmm.
And he looked a bit older, and he had more lines on his face than I would have assumed. Um, so that's my experience.
Yeah.
But just
Ooh,
smiling, right? Smiling all the time.
Smiling,
smiling,
always smiling.
smiling, and with his eyes, you could definitely feel that. Yeah, when I saw him, he was darker. He wasn't. He didn't have dreadlocks, but he
No.
did have hair about down to here,
Mm-hmm.
and his skin was dark, darker, tanned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a tanned look. But um, he, I believe that he also reflects us in some way.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
What do you mean by that?
By what we feel comfortable with, or what
Mm.
we are, yeah, what we are maybe projecting as well. Because he doesn't, he, I don't believe that he's not going to appear to us exactly, I feel, for me, exactly maybe as he was in the body, because he's not in a body anymore. He's
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
coming in light and in, well, he did feel he was very physical with me, but he's in his more perfected form. Oh, there's an echo.
time. I might have to get off here pretty soon,
Yeah,
Sharon, in the next 10 minutes.
it's
Okay.
time for us to close anyway. If anyone
Oh,
has
okay.
any questions or anything, you're welcome to ask in our last few minutes. And I muted you, Lucio, because there was an echo there since you unplugged your earphones. Okay.
Oh,
Okay. So, anyone have any last comments they'd like to share before we close?
I'll say something.
Of course, we'd love for you to say something.
And I just did an interview this morning that probably won't be published for a couple of weeks, but it's like I love talking about Jesus. I love learning about Jesus, and what really stands out to me in conversation after conversation after conversation is that Jesus really isn't like, look at me, look at me. He really just wants the messages and his teachings to, and they're the teachings of God, they're the word of God. And, what I love about it is that we put all this attention on Jesus. It's really fun. It's one of my favorite things to do. I feel even more connected when I'm doing it, but, it's not really not that I can speak for his desire, but it's really, more important that that we be the love and that we be the forgiveness and that we spread that love rather than, really what I was raised with was like worshiping, this man. And, he really, for me in my experience, it's really a reminder to me all the time that, he's not something that can't be accomplished. He was a man, just like we are human, and we can do what he did too. And that's to us. So that's all.
Perfect.
beautiful.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Well said.
Yes.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead, Lucio.
my battery might run out, so
Okay.
that's why I did all that. But I just wanted to say, and piggyback on what Christina said, that what I take away from tonight and a lot of my experiences with Jesus is that saying of his that where two or more are gathered in my name, I will be there. And so I'm really grateful for this opportunity to gather with like-minded people. And so in saying and sort of talking about what Christina said is that I feel that Jesus is not someone to maybe worship, but maybe to walk with, hand in hand. And that's how I see him. And I see him as a brother and a friend. And that companionship and the guidance of an older brother or friend, to show the way and to help and guide and to love as we love each other, all of us.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. Thank you, Lucio.
Thank
Thank you.
you. That was
Yeah.
well said.
Ah, well, I'm
Anyone else
grateful
like to
to have
share?
been
Go
here
ahead.
tonight.
Well, thank you,
I'm
Sable.
so
Thank you for
happy.
being here.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. I was so excited when you did that text. I was like, yes, of course. Uh,
Well, I love your story. Yeah.
oh, well, thank you. I mean, there's a lot that I got to be exposed to that taught me so much and brought me here and led me to my current living situation, which is just beautiful. I shared with you the news that I'm pregnant, and I'm like
Mm.
almost four and a half months along now, and I'm just like so
Awesome.
excited. And
Congratulations.
it's a boy. We're having a boy.
Yay.
So I throughout all this, I just know that I don't even have to call on Jesus. I know he's with me. Yeshua is with me all the time, and he's making sure that I'm strong and healthy and reminding me all the time, make wise choices for the health of you and your baby. It's like I feel that all around me, not just him, but all of my guides, all of my angels, and I just feel like life is opening up so much, and we're about to see a lot of big things happen in 2024, and I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my soul, every atom of my being. You feel it, right? Yes.
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
So
definitely.
we're on our way.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Kim, would you like to say anything before we close?
Oh, I just really love what you said, Lucio, because I was feeling that. I was feeling such strong energy with all of us. Um, and it's a thrill. It's a thrill to be with like minded, and it just feels really powerful and wonderful. So I
Yeah.
feel really blessed. Thank you, Sharon, for inviting me and being a part of such cool people.
Of course. Of course. Thank you for being here. You're the coolest. Yeah, and I'm honored that everyone was here. And in terms of Yeshua, I mean, uh, I feel him walking with me all the time. And what is so amazing is when I sit with him and I feel his love, and I know he is embodied God, source, however you want to call it, fully embodied, that I don't want for anything because I'm full. I'm completely full
Mhm.
when I'm sitting there with him. And I feel that love so deeply and so immensely, like Christina was talking about, that there's nothing I could do or say that would get in the way of that. It doesn't matter what it is. And so I just give everything to him when I'm
Mhm.
feeling out of sorts, and then I feel it. I feel his love, and and I'm like, oh, there you are. Here I am. Here, everything's right again. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for watching, and I could talk about Yeshua all the time,
Mhm.
and I hope everyone has a great Christmas and great holidays,
Merry
and we'll
Christmas.
see you see you next
Merry
time.
Christmas. Merry
Thank
Christmas,
you.
Thank
everyone.
you. Merry
Oh,
Christmas,
love
everyone.
you all. Mwah, mwah.
Bye bye.
Oh, look at that hearts. Do you see that? Oh. It made little hearts on the screen. That was cool.